The first time Lin Qian saw Shen Yue again, it was in the reflection of a hospital window. 3 years ago, Lin Qian had drugged him, cornered him, and forced a relationship out of desperation. 3 years of pretending, 3 years of coldness, 3 years of a man trying to atone for a sin he never stopped committing. And now, Shen Yue stood behind him like a ghost he had summoned. "You should have let me die," Lin Qian whispered, staring at the IV needle in his arm. "It would have been easier for both of us." Shen Yue didn't answer. He never did when the truth was too close. His voice, when it finally came, was calm enough to cut. "You don't get to die. Not before you pay what you owe." Lin Qian laughed, hoarse and bitter. "I've been paying for 3 years. "No," Shen Yue said, stepping closer. "You've been running." Shen Wei noticed. Of course he did. He always noticed the wrong things: fear, weakness, guilt. But never the things Lin Qian actually wanted him to see. Like the way his hands trembled. Or how he had stopped eating. Or how the world had become unbearably quiet since Shen Wei walked out of it. Shen Wei's friends had mocked him, humiliated him, treated him like a stain on Shen Wei's reputation. And Shen Wei had let them. Pride was a cage he refused to leave, even when Lin Qian was breaking inside it. "You hate me," Lin Qian said. "You always have." Shen Wei's jaw tightened. "I hate what you did, but not me?" Silence. Lin Qian smiled, empty. "That's what I thought." He turned his face away, but Shen Wei grabbed his chin, forcing him to meet his eyes. There was anger there, yes, but also something else, something raw and unspoken. "You don't get to decide what I feel," Shen Yue said. "Not anymore." Lin Qian's breath hitched. "Then what do you want from me?" Shen Yue leaned in, his voice low, almost trembling. "I want you to live," he said, "even if you hate me for it." Lin Qian closed his eyes. Living was the one thing he no longer knew how to do. Shen Yue had always believed he understood control. Control over his emotions, control over his reputation, control over the distance he kept from people who wanted too much from him. But Lin Qian had ruined that illusion the moment he drugged him 3 years ago. And somehow, even after Shen Yue walked away, the damage lingered like a bruise that refused to fade. He stood outside the hospital room, long after the doctor left, staring at the closed door. His friends had already texted him. Jokes, mockery, thinly veiled disgust. He tried to kill himself again? What a pathetic mess. You should have cut him off years ago. Shen Yue didn't reply. He never did when the truth made him uncomfortable. He pushed open the door. Lin Qian was awake, staring at the ceiling as if it were the only thing left in the world that wouldn't hurt him. His face was pale, lips cracked, eyes unfocused. He looked like someone who had been emptied out from the inside. Shen Yue hated that look. Not because it disgusted him, but because it made something in his chest twist painfully. "You're still here," Lin Qian murmured without turning his head. "Why?" Shen Yue didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, pretending to admire the view. It was easier than looking at the man on the bed. "You shouldn't have done it," he said finally. Lin Qian laughed softly. "It wasn't a performance." "I know. That was the problem." Shen Yue had seen the aftermath. The pills, the collapsed body, the frantic nurse. And for a moment, a single terrifying moment, he had felt something close to panic. Not because he cared. He told himself that repeatedly. But because Lin Qian dying would mean the story ended on his terms, not Shen Yue's. "You're angry," Lin Qian said. "You always are." Shen Yue turned sharply. "I'm not angry." "You're lying." He was. He always was. Shen Yue approached the bed, stopping just close enough to make Lin Qian tense. He could see the faint tremble in Lin Qian's fingers, the way he curled them into the blanket to hide it. "You think dying solves anything?" Shen Yue asked. "It solves everything." Shen Yue's jaw tightened. "You don't get to decide that." His eyes were hollow, but there was a flicker of something. Resentment, exhaustion, maybe both. "You left," Lin Qian said. "You made it very clear I wasn't worth staying for." Shen Yue felt the words like a slap. He had left. He had walked away because staying meant admitting something he wasn't ready to face. "You forced me into that relationship," Shen Yue said quietly. "You don't get to act like the victim." "I'm not acting." Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Shen Yue hated silence. It made him think too much. He reached out almost without realizing it, and brushed a strand of hair from Lin Qian's forehead. Lin Qian froze, breath catching. "You're still mine," Shen Yue said, voice low, "even if I hate how it started." Lin Qian's eyes widened. "That's not love." "I never said it was." But the way his hand lingered said otherwise. Shen Yue pulled back abruptly, as if burned. He couldn't afford to be soft. Not now. Not when Lin Qian was looking at him like he was the only thing tethering him to the world. "Get better," Shen Yue said, heading for the door. "I'll come back tomorrow." "Why?" Lin Qian whispered. Shen Yue paused. He didn't turn around. He didn't trust himself to. "Because," he said, "you're not allowed to disappear." The door clicked shut behind him, and for the first time in years, Shen Yue realized he had no idea who he was trying to protect. The hospital discharged him sooner than expected. Lin Qian suspected Shen Yu had something to do with it. The nurses were suddenly polite. The paperwork rushed. The doctor strangely insistent that rest at home would be better for his recovery. Home. He didn't have one anymore. Shen Yu's apartment had never been his. His own place had been emptied out months ago, when he couldn't afford rent. And the only person who had ever offered him a place to stay was the same person who had walked away without looking back. He stepped out into the cold air, clutching the thin discharge papers. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to walk. He didn't know where he was going, only that he needed to move before the walls closed in again. He made it halfway down the street before a familiar car pulled up beside him. Shen Yu stepped out. "You weren't supposed to leave alone," Shen Yue said, voice low. Lin Qian didn't look at him. "You don't get to decide that." Shen Yue's jaw tightened. "Get in the car." No. The refusal hung in the air, heavier than either expected. Shen Yue took a step closer. "You're not well." "I'm not yours," Lin Qian said. "Not anymore." Shen Yue froze. For a moment, Lin Qian thought he might actually walk away. That would have been the merciful thing to do. But mercy had never been Shen Yue's strength. "You're angry," Shen Yue said quietly. Lin Qian laughed, the sound brittle. "I'm tired." Shen Yue reached for his arm. Lin Qian jerked away, stumbling back. "Don't touch me." Shen Yue's expression flickered. Hurt, frustration, something darker. "You think I'm the enemy." "You are," Lin Qian said. "You just hide it better than your friends." Shen Yue's eyes narrowed. "They didn't mean." "They meant every word," Lin Qian snapped, "and you let them." Shen Yue fell silent. Lin Qian's voice trembled, but he didn't stop. "You knew what they said about me. You knew how they treated me, and you stood there like it had nothing to do with you." "They were angry for me," Shen Yue said. "No," Lin Qian whispered. "They were angry because it was easy. Because I was easy." Shen Yue flinched. Lin Qian took a shaky breath. "I spent 3 years trying to make up for what I did to you. 3 years apologizing, bending, shrinking, hoping you'd look at me like I was human again." Shen Yue's voice softened. "I did look at you." "Not enough," Lin Qian said. "Never enough." The wind blew between them, cold and sharp. Shen Yue stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. I came back. You left first. Shen Yue's breath hitched. Lin Qian looked at him, really looked at him. The perfect posture, the controlled expression, the pride stitched into every line of his body. A man who wanted to care, but didn't know how to, without losing something of himself. I don't want to be your responsibility, Lin Qian said. Or your guilt, or your punishment. Shen Yue swallowed hard. You're not. Then what am I? Silence. Shen Yue opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. The words wouldn't come. They never did when they mattered. Lin Qian nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Shen Yu grabbed his wrist, not harshly, but with a desperation Lin Chen had never seen from him. Don't walk away, Shen Yu said, voice cracking. Not like this. Lin Chen stared at him, stunned. Shen Yu's grip tightened. I don't know what you want from me. I wanted you to choose me, Lin Chen said, just once. Shen Yu's breath trembled. I'm trying. Lin Chen shook his head. Trying isn't enough anymore. Shen Yu's expression shattered for a moment, just a moment, before he forced it back into place. Get in the car, he said again, but this time it wasn't an order. It was a plea. Lin Chen looked at him, at the man who had ruined him and saved him and trapped him, in a cycle he didn't know how to escape. He didn't move. Shen Yu's voice dropped to a whisper. If you walk away now, I won't let you disappear. Lin Qian closed his eyes. He believed him. And that terrified him more than anything else. Shen Ye didn't remember driving home. He only remembered the moment Lin Qian pulled his wrist out of his hand, that small, trembling motion, and how something inside him snapped like a frayed wire. He had spent 3 years telling himself he stayed out of guilt. 3 years convincing himself that he was only watching over Lin Qian because he owed him. But watching Lin Qian walk away, thin and unsteady and stubbornly proud, made something ugly rise in his chest. Not guilt, not anger, something colder, something possessive, something that whispered, he's mine, even if he doesn't want to be. Shen Yue sat in the dark of his apartment, the city lights bleeding through the windows. His phone buzzed with messages from his friends. You picked him up, right? Don't tell me you're letting him cling again. He's manipulating you. Shen Yue stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then he blocked all 3 of them. The silence that followed was startlingly clean. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. His friends had always been loud, always pushing, always feeding his anger. He had let them, because it was easier than admitting the truth. He didn't hate Lin Qian. He hated how much he needed him. A soft knock echoed through the apartment. Shen Yue stiffened. He wasn't expecting anyone. Lin Qian stood there, drenched from the sudden rain outside, hair plastered to his forehead, hospital bracelet still on his wrist. He looked exhausted, defeated, and yet somehow determined. Shen Yue's heart lurched. What are you doing here? He asked, voice low. Lin Qian swallowed. I didn't know where else to go. Shen Yue stepped aside without thinking. Lin Qian walked in slowly, like someone entering a place he wasn't sure he was allowed to be. Water dripped from his clothes onto the floor. His hands were shaking. Shen Yue closed the door behind him. You should have called, he said. I didn't think you'd answer. Shen Yue's jaw tightened. I would have. Lin Qian gave a small, tired smile. You say that now. Shen Yue moved closer. You think I don't care. I know you don't. Shen Yue grabbed his chin, forcing him to look up. Don't tell me what I feel. Lin Qian's breath hitched. You don't even know what you feel. Shen Yue's grip tightened just slightly, not enough to hurt, but enough to make a point. I know one thing, he said. I'm not letting you walk away again. Lin Qian froze. Shen Yue leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. You think I stayed because of guilt. You think I came back because I pity you. Lin Qian's eyes flickered, uncertain. You're wrong, Shen Yue said. I came back because I can't stand the thought of you disappearing. Lin Qian's lips parted, but no sound came out. Shen Yue continued, softer now, almost dangerous in its calm. You don't get to vanish from my life. Not after everything. Lin Qian took a step back, but Shen Yue followed, closing the distance. You said trying isn't enough, Shen Yue murmured. Fine, then I won't try. Lin Qian blinked, confused. What does that mean? It means I'm done pretending I can let you go. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Lin Qian whispered, Shen Yue, this isn't healthy. I don't care. Lin Qian's breath trembled. You should. Shen Yue shook his head slowly. I only care about one thing now. He reached out, brushing a thumb across Lin Qian's cheek, a touch too gentle for the storm behind his eyes. You stay, Shen Yue said, with me, where I can see you. Lin Qian stared at him, stunned. I'm not losing you. Not again, not ever. And for the first time, Lin Qian realized Shen Yue wasn't driven by guilt anymore. He wasn't driven by anger. He was driven by something far more consuming, something that didn't know how to let go. The first night back in Shen Yue's apartment felt like sleeping inside a memory he didn't want to revisit. Everything was the same. The minimalist furniture, the cold marble floors, the faint scent of cedar from Shen Yue's cologne lingering in the air. Everything except the way Shen Yue watched him. Lin Qian lay on the couch. Shen Yue had insisted he take the bed, but Lin Qian refused and pretended to sleep. The blanket was thin, the room too quiet. He could hear the soft hum of the refrigerator, the distant traffic, and beneath it all, footsteps. Slow, controlled, moving from the bedroom to the hallway, then stopping just out of sight. Shen Yue was checking on him again. Lin Qian kept his breathing steady, eyes closed. He didn't want to see the expression Shen Yue wore when he thought Lin Qian wasn't looking. Eventually, the footsteps retreated, but the tension didn't. Morning came with the smell of congee simmering in the kitchen. Lin Qian sat up, disoriented. He hadn't eaten properly in days, and the scent made his stomach twist with both hunger and unease. Shen Yue stood at the stove, sleeves rolled up, stirring with a precision that felt almost clinical. You should eat, Shen Yue said without turning around. Lin Qian hesitated. You don't have to. I know, Shen Yue interrupted. Shen Yue ladled the congee into a bowl and set it on the table. Sit. It wasn't a command, but it wasn't a request either. Lin Qian sat. Shen Yue watched him take the first spoonful, eyes sharp, unreadable. Only when Lin Qian swallowed did Shen Yue finally sit across from him. You're still too thin, Shen Yue said. Lin Qian forced a small smile. I'll gain it back. You will, Shen Yue said, as if it were a decision he had already made for him. The silence stretched. Lin Qian focused on the bowl, on the warmth spreading through his chest. He didn't want to admit it tasted good. He didn't want to admit he needed it. He didn't want to admit he needed anything from Shen Yue. You're not going back to your old place, Shen Yue said suddenly. Lin Qian froze. I wasn't planning to. Good. Shen Yu's gaze softened, but only slightly. You can stay here, as long as you need. Lin Qian looked down. And if I don't want to stay? Shen Yue didn't blink. You will. The certainty in his voice made Lin Qian's stomach tighten. Days passed like that. Quiet, controlled, suffocating. Shen Ye worked from home more often now, claiming he needed to focus, but Lin Qian could feel his eyes on him constantly. When he moved, when he ate, when he tried to rest. He wasn't unkind. He wasn't cruel. He was attentive in a way that felt like being pinned under glass. One evening, Lin Qian tried to step outside for fresh air. He had barely opened the door when Shen Ye appeared behind him. "Where are you going?" Lin Qian startled. "Just outside." "For how long?" "I don't know. A few minutes." Shen Ye's jaw tightened. "It's late." "It's only 8. Shen Ye repeated. "I'll be back soon." Shen Ye stepped closer, blocking the doorway with his body. "You don't need to go out." "I just want some air." "You can open a window." Lin Qian's breath caught. "Shen Ye." Shen Ye's voice softened, but the softness was worse than anger. "I'm not trying to control you." Lin Qian looked at him, and for the first time, he wasn't sure if Shen Ye believed his own words. Shen Ye reached out, brushing a thumb across Lin Qian's cheek, a gesture too gentle for the tension coiled beneath it. "I just don't want you wandering off alone," he said. "Not when you're still recovering." Lin Qian's fingers tightened around the door handle. "I'm not going anywhere." Shen Ye's eyes darkened with something like relief. "Good." And just like that, the apartment felt smaller. That night, Lin Qian lay awake on the couch again, staring at the ceiling. He could hear Shen Ye moving in the hallway. Checking. Always checking. Lin Qian closed his eyes. He wasn't sure when guilt had turned into obsession. He wasn't sure when care had turned into confinement. He wasn't sure when Shen Ye had stopped being someone he feared losing and started being someone he feared. But he knew one thing. If he didn't find a way to breathe soon, this quiet cage would swallow him whole. Shen Yue rarely invited people into his home, but his friends didn't wait for invitations. They showed up unannounced, loud and entitled, as if they still had the right to walk through his life without knocking. He heard them before he saw them, the familiar laughter, the careless footsteps, the voices that had once been comforting, but now grated like sandpaper. "Shen Yue, you alive in there?" He stepped out of the hallway just as they entered the living room. 3 of them. The same 3 who had mocked Lin Qian for years. The same 3 he had blocked days ago. They didn't seem to notice the tension in the air. Or maybe they didn't care. One of them, Wei Zhen, dropped onto the couch with a grin. "You disappeared. Thought you finally got rid of that parasite." Shen Yue's jaw tightened. Another friend, Jian Hao, smirked. "Did he try something again? I swear that guy's a walking disaster." Shen Yue didn't answer. The third, Lu Ming, glanced around. "He's not here, right? Tell me you didn't bring him back." Shen Yue's silence was answer enough. Lu Ming's expression twisted. "You're joking." Wei Zhen scoffed. "Shen Yue, come on. You're not seriously letting him stay with you again, after everything?" Shen Yue's voice came out colder than he intended. He needed a place. "He needed a therapist," Jian Hao said, "not you." Shen Yue's eyes narrowed. "Watch your mouth." Jian Hao blinked, surprised. "It's the truth." Wei Zhen leaned forward. "You're letting him manipulate you again. He's using you. He always has." Shen Yue's fingers curled into fists. "He's not using me." "He tried to kill himself," Lu Ming said bluntly. "That's not your responsibility." Shen Yu's breath stilled. They didn't know. They didn't understand. They never had. Wei Zhen laughed. "You're too soft on him. If I were you, I'd have cut him off years ago." Shen Yu's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "You're not me." "And thank God for that," Wei Zhen said. "I wouldn't let someone like him drag me down." Something inside Shen Yu snapped. He stepped forward. eyes sharp. Get out. The room fell silent. Wei Zhen frowned. What? Get out, Shen Yu repeated. All of you. Jin Hao stood slowly. Shen Yu, we're trying to help you. You're not helping. You're making everything worse, Lu Ming scoffed. Because we're telling you the truth? No, Shen Yu said, because you don't know anything. Wei Zhen's voice rose. We know he's toxic. We know he ruined your life. We know. You don't know what he means to me. The words slipped out before Shen Yu could stop them. His friends stared at him, stunned. Lu Ming recovered first. You're serious? Shen Yu didn't answer. Wei Zhen shook his head. Maybe, Shen Yu said. But I'm done listening to people who treat him like trash. Jian Hao stepped closer, lowering his voice. He's not good for you. Shen Yu's expression hardened. You don't get to decide that. So you're choosing him over us? Shen Yue didn't hesitate. Yes. Silence. Cold. Heavy. Final. Lu Ming let out a bitter laugh. Fine. Ruin your life. Again. They left without another word. The door slammed shut. Shen Yue stood there, breathing hard, the echo of their footsteps fading down the hall. For the first time in years, the apartment felt quiet. Empty. But not lonely. He turned toward the hallway. Lin Qian stood there, half hidden in the shadows, eyes wide. He had heard everything. Shen Yue's voice softened. You should be resting. Lin Qian didn't move. You didn't have to do that. Yes, Shen Yue said. I did. Lin Qian looked at him, something unreadable, flickering in his gaze. You cut them off because of me. Shen Yu stepped closer. I cut them off because they don't understand. Understand what? Shen Yu reached out, brushing his fingers against Lin Qian's wrist, a touch that felt more like a claim than comfort. That you're not going anywhere, he said quietly. Not anymore. Lin Qian's breath caught. Shen Yu's eyes darkened with something possessive, something final. I won't let anyone take you away from me. And for the first time, Lin Qian realized Shen Yu wasn't isolating him by accident. Lin Qian waited until Shen Yue left for a meeting. He counted the minutes, listened for the elevator, waited for the silence to settle like dust. Only then did he move. He packed nothing. There was nothing here that belonged to him anyway. Just his phone, his wallet, and the thin jacket he'd worn from the hospital. He slipped on his shoes quietly, heart pounding so hard he thought it might echo through the walls. He reached for the door. The handle didn't turn. Lin Qian froze. He tried again. Nothing. A cold realization crept up his spine. Shen Yue had locked it. From the outside. Lin Qian's breath hitched. He stepped back, staring at the door as if it had betrayed him. He checked the windows next. All sealed. All reinforced. He felt the walls closing in. He locked me in. The thought made his stomach twist. He sat on the couch, hands trembling, trying to steady his breathing. He didn't know how long he waited. Minutes, maybe an hour, before the sound of a key turning in the lock made him jolt upright. The door opened. Shen Yu stepped inside. He stopped when he saw Lin Qian standing there, pale and shaking. You tried to leave. It wasn't a question. Lin Qian swallowed. You locked the door. Shen Yu closed the door behind him, setting his keys down with deliberate calm. I did. Lin Qian stared at him. You can't do that. Shen Yu stepped closer. I can. You shouldn't. Shen Yu's expression didn't change. You're not ready to be on your own. That's not your decision. Shen Yue's voice softened, but the softness was worse than anger. You almost died a week ago. Lin Qian flinched. Shen Yue continued, stepping closer until there was barely a breath of space between them. You think I'm going to let you wander off again? Disappear again? No. Lin Qian's voice cracked. I wasn't going to disappear. You don't know that. I do. Shen Yue shook his head slowly. You don't get to make promises you can't keep. Lin Qian's breath trembled. You're suffocating me. Shen Yue's eyes darkened. I'm keeping you alive. That's not the same. It is to me. Lin Qian took a step back. Shen Yu, please. Shen Yu stopped then, just long enough for Lin Qian to see the conflict flicker across his face. Guilt, fear, something raw and desperate. Then it vanished. You're not leaving, Shen Yu said quietly. Not until I know you're safe. I'm not your responsibility. Shen Yu's voice dropped to a whisper. You're not my responsibility. You're my... He cut himself off. Lin Qian stared at him, heart pounding. You're what? Shen Yu didn't answer. Instead, he reached out and gently took Lin Qian's wrist, not tight, not painful, but firm enough that Lin Qian knew he wouldn't be able to pull away. You're staying, Shen Yu said, with me. Lin Qian's voice was barely audible. And if I say no? Shen Yu's expression didn't change. You won't. Lin Qian felt the air leave his lungs. Shen Yue guided him back toward the living room, slow and steady, like he was afraid Lin Qian might shatter if he moved too fast. When they reached the couch, Shen Yue let go of his wrist, but only after Lin Qian sat down. Shen Yue knelt in front of him, eyes level with his. I'm not doing this to hurt you, he said softly. I'm doing this because I can't lose you. Lin Qian whispered, You already did. Shen Yue's breath caught. For a moment, the mask cracked. Fear, pain, longing, all tangled together. Then, he reached out and cupped Lin Qian's face with both hands, his touch trembling. I'll get you back, he said, even if you hate me for it. Lin Qian closed his eyes. The quiet cage had never felt smaller. The apartment felt smaller every day. Shen Yue's presence pressed against him like a second skin, silent, watchful, inescapable. Even when he wasn't in the room, Lin Qian felt him, in the locked doors, in the sealed windows, in the way the air seemed to thicken whenever he tried to breathe too deeply. He hadn't stepped outside in 4 days. He hadn't slept more than a few hours at a time. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the door handle refusing to turn. By the 5th day, his chest felt tight. His hands shook when he tried to hold a cup. The walls seemed to tilt when he stood up too fast. Shen Yue noticed. Of course he did. You're pale, he said that morning, touching Lin Qian's forehead with cool fingers. You should rest. I'm fine. You're not. I didn't say I was. You were thinking it. Lin Qian's breath hitched. Shen Yue, I can't live like this. Shen Yue's expression tightened. You're safe here. I'm not safe, Lin Qian whispered. I'm trapped. Shen Yue froze. For a moment, Lin Qian thought he might soften, that he might step back, give him space, let him breathe. Instead, Shen Yue reached out and took his wrist, gently, but with a firmness that made Lin Qian's stomach twist. You're not trapped, Shen Yue said quietly. You're protected. Lin Qian felt something inside him crack. He pulled his hand away. Too fast, too sharp. The room spun. Shen Yue's voice blurred. Lin Qian? Lin Qian tried to answer, but the words tangled in his throat. His vision dimmed at the edges, black creeping inward like ink spreading through water. He heard Shen Yue call his name again, louder this time, panicked, but it sounded far away, like someone shouting from the end of a tunnel. His knees buckled. The floor rushed up to meet him. Everything went dark. When he woke, the world smelled like antiseptic. White ceiling, soft beeping, a weight on his hand. Lin Qian blinked slowly. Shen Yue sat beside the hospital bed, fingers wrapped around Lin Tian's hand, as if afraid it might vanish if he let go. His eyes were red. "You scared me," Shen Yue said, voice hoarse. Lin Tian swallowed, throat dry. "What happened?" "You collapsed," Shen Yue said. "Your blood pressure dropped. You were dehydrated." Exhausted. Lin Tian closed his eyes. Of course he was. Shen Yue's grit tightened. "You should have told me you felt unwell." Lin Tian opened his eyes again, meeting Shen Yue's gaze. "I did," he whispered. "You didn't listen." Shen Yue flinched. For the first time, Lin Tian saw something like fear in his expression. Not fear of losing control, but fear of losing him. "I'm taking you home when you're stable," Shen Yue said. Lin Tian's heart sank. "Shen Yue, you're not leaving me," Shen Yue said, voice low, almost trembling. "Not like this. Not ever." Lin Tian looked at him, at the man who had locked him in, watched him unravel, and still believed he was protecting him. He didn't know whether to scream or cry. He didn't know whether Shen Yue was saving him or destroying him. Maybe both. Shen Yue had never been afraid of anything. Not failure, not betrayal, not even the night 3 years ago when everything between him and Lin Tian had shattered. But the moment he saw Lin Tian collapse, the way his body went limp, the way his eyes rolled back, the way his breathing stuttered, something ancient and primal tore through him. Fear. Not the kind that made you freeze, the kind that made you move. He had carried Lin Tian into the emergency room with shaking hands, his voice cracking as he tried to explain what happened. The doctors had taken him away, and Shen Yue had been left standing in the hallway, unable to breathe. He had never felt powerless before. Now, sitting beside Lin Tian's hospital bed, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest, that fear clung to him like a second skin. Lin Tian stirred, eyelids fluttering. Shen Yue leaned forward instantly. "You're awake." Lin Tian blinked slowly, disoriented. His voice was barely a whisper. "You're still here." "Of course I'm here." Lin Tian looked away. "You don't have to be." Shen Yue's fingers tightened around the edge of the bed. "Don't say that. It's true." "No," Shen Yue said, voice low. "It isn't." Lin Tian didn't argue. He didn't have the strength. But the silence between them was heavy, full of things neither wanted to say. Shen Yue reached out, brushing a thumb across Lin Tian's knuckles. "You scared me. I didn't mean to." "I know," Shen Yue said, "but it doesn't change what happened." Lin Tian closed his eyes. "I'm tired, Shen Yue. I know. I can't breathe in that apartment." Shen Yue froze. Lin Tian continued, voice trembling. "I feel like I'm disappearing." Shen Yue's heart twisted painfully. He had done that. He had pushed too hard, held too tightly, convinced himself that control was the same as care. He leaned closer, his voice barely audible. "I can't lose you." Lin Tian opened his eyes, meeting his gaze. "You won't. You don't know that." Shen Yue swallowed hard, the fear rising again. "When you collapsed, I thought—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Lin Tian watched him quietly, something soft and sad in his expression. "You're afraid." Shen Yue didn't deny it. "I'm terrified," he said, "and I don't know how to stop." Lin Tian's voice was gentle. "You can't keep me by locking me in." Shen Yue's jaw tightened. "I can't keep you by letting you go either. That's not your choice." Shen Yue looked at him, really looked at him, the pale skin, the dark circles, the fragile rise and fall of his chest. He had done this. His fear, his obsession, his inability to let go. He lowered his head, forehead resting against the back of Lin Tian's hand. I don't know how to love you without breaking something, he whispered. Lin Tian's fingers twitched, brushing lightly against his hair. Then learn, he said softly, before there's nothing left of me to hold on to. Shen Yue closed his eyes. He didn't know if he could. He didn't know if he was capable of loving without possessing, protecting without imprisoning. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would rather burn the world down than lose Lin Qian again. And that fear, that desperate, consuming fear, was only growing stronger. Hospitals made Shen Yue restless. Too many people, too many eyes, too many chances for someone to notice what he didn't want noticed. He sat beside Lin Qian's bed, fingers loosely intertwined with Lin Qian's. The steady beeping of the monitor was the only thing keeping him grounded. Every rise and fall of Lin Qian's chest felt like a fragile promise. He wasn't losing him. Not again. Not ever. A soft knock interrupted the quiet. A nurse stepped in, a woman in her 30s with tired eyes and a clipboard tucked under her arm. She smiled politely at Lin Qian, then at Shen Yu. "Good morning. I'm just here to check his vitals." Shen Yu didn't move. The nurse hesitated. "Sir, I'll need a bit of space." Shen Yu rose slowly, but he didn't step far. He stayed close enough that his shadow fell across the bed. The nurse glanced at him again, longer this time. Her eyes flicked to Lin Qian's wrist, where faint marks from Shen Yu's grip still lingered. Then to the way Lin Qian avoided eye contact. Then to the tension in Shen Yu's posture. Her expression shifted. Concern. Suspicion. "Mr. Lin," she said gently, "are you feeling safe at home?" Lin Qian stiffened. Shen Yue's heart stopped. The nurse continued, voice soft but firm. "If there's anything you want to talk about, you can tell me. We have resources." "He's fine," Shen Yue said. The nurse didn't look at him. "I'm asking him." Lin Qian swallowed, eyes darting between them. Shen Yue stepped closer to the bed. "He's tired. He doesn't need this right now." The nurse finally turned to him, her expression sharpening. "Sir, I need to speak with him alone." "No," Shen Yue said. Lin Qian flinched. The nurse straightened, her tone cooling. "This is hospital policy. Please step outside." Shen Yue's pulse hammered in his ears. If he left the room, even for a minute, Lin Qian could say something. Something that would make them take him. He couldn't let that happen. "I'm not leaving him," Shen Yue said. The nurse's eyes narrowed. "That isn't your decision." Shen Yue's voice dropped to a low, dangerous calm. "It is." Lin Qian whispered, "Shen Yue." Shen Yue turned to him instantly. "You don't have to talk to her. You don't have to say anything." The nurse stepped forward. "Mr. Lin, if you feel unsafe." "He's safe," Shen Yue snapped. The nurse's expression hardened. "I'm calling security." Lin Qian's breath hitched. "Wait." Shen Yue grabbed his hand, holding it tightly. "Don't. Please." The word please slipped out before he could stop it. The nurse froze. Shen Yue's voice cracked, raw and unguarded. "I can't leave him. Not even for a moment. I can't." He broke off, swallowing hard. Lin Qian stared at him, stunned. The nurse's expression softened slightly, not with sympathy, but with understanding. Not the kind Shen Yue wanted. The kind that said, "I see what's happening here." She lowered her voice. "Mr. Shen, fear doesn't justify control." Shen Wei's grip tightened. "You don't understand." "I understand more than you think." "No," Shen Wei said, shaking his head. "You don't. You didn't see him collapse. You didn't see him lying on the floor, not breathing right. You didn't—" His voice broke again. Lin Qian's eyes softened with something like sorrow. The nurse exhaled slowly. "I'm not trying to take him away from you. I'm trying to make sure he's safe." "He is safe," Shen Wei said. With me. Lin Tian whispered, Shen Wei, let her talk to me. Shen Wei turned to him, panic flickering across his face. No, if you say the wrong thing, I won't. You don't know that. Lin Tian reached up with his free hand, touching Shen Wei's wrist gently. Let me talk to her. Just for a moment. Shen Wei stared at him, torn between fear and trust. The nurse waited, silent. Finally, Shen Wei let go of Lin Tian's hand. He stepped back. But he didn't leave the room. He stood by the door, rigid, eyes locked on Lin Tian, as if watching him was the only thing keeping him alive. The nurse hesitated. Sir, I asked for privacy. This is as far as I go, Shen Wei said. His voice was quiet, final, unmovable. The nurse realized she wouldn't win this battle. She turned to Lin Qian instead. And Shen Yue watched, every word, every breath, terrified that the next sentence might be the one that took Lin Qian away from him forever. The hospital room was quiet, too quiet. Shen Yue had stepped out to speak with the doctor, leaving Lin Qian alone for the first time in hours. The silence felt strange, almost unfamiliar, like he'd forgotten what it was like to breathe without someone watching him. He shifted slightly, wincing at the tug of the IV line. A soft rustle caught his attention. Shen Yue's coat, draped over the chair beside the bed, had slipped open. Something had fallen out of the pocket, a folded sheet of paper. Lin Qian hesitated. He knew he shouldn't. But curiosity tugged at him, quiet and insistent. He reached for it. The paper unfolded easily, revealing a printed appointment slip. Psychiatric consultation. Dr. Wen Jian. Date, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Patient, Shen Yue. Lin Qian stared at the words, his breath catching. Shen Yue? Seeing a psychiatrist? His first reaction was disbelief. His second was confusion. His third was something he couldn't name. He read the slip again, slower this time. Shen Yue was going to see someone. About what? About him? A cold shiver ran down Lin Qian's spine. He didn't hear the door open until Shen Yue was already inside. What are you holding? Shen Yue's eyes dropped to the paper in his hands, and something flickered across his face. Not anger, not embarrassment, fear. Lin Qian swallowed. You're seeing a psychiatrist? Shen Yue didn't answer. Lin Qian looked up at him, searching his expression. Why? Shen Yue stepped forward, taking the paper gently from his hands. It's nothing. It's not nothing. Shen Yue folded the slip with slow, deliberate care. It's just a consultation. For what? Shen Yue didn't speak. Lin Qian's voice softened. Is it because of me? Shen Yue's jaw tightened. It's because I can't lose you. Lin Qian's breath hitched. Shen Yue continued, voice low and strained. When you collapsed, I realized something. I realized I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. I realized I was afraid. Too afraid. Lin Qian stared at him, stunned. Shen Yu never admitted fear, never admitted weakness, never admitted anything that made him human. But now, standing at the foot of the hospital bed, he looked almost fragile. I thought, Shen Yu said quietly, that if I talked to someone, maybe I could understand what's happening to me. Lin Qian's chest tightened. Shen Yu. Shen Yu shook his head. Don't misunderstand. I'm not doing this to change how I feel about you. I'm doing it, Shen Yue said, because I need to learn how to keep you without breaking you. The words hit Lin Shen like a blow. Shen Yue stepped closer, his voice trembling. I don't want to hurt you. I never did. But I don't know how to stop myself. I don't know how to let go without feeling like I'm losing everything. Lin Shen felt his throat tighten. You don't have to keep me. Shen Yue's eyes darkened. Yes, I do. Lin Qian looked away, unable to hold that gaze. Shen Yue reached out, brushing a hand through Lin Qian's hair, gentle, almost reverent. I'm going to that appointment, he said, not because I want to change how I feel, but because I want to learn how to hold on to you without crushing you. Lin Qian closed his eyes. He didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified, because for the first time, Shen Yu wasn't just obsessed. He was trying to make his obsession sustainable. The hospital discharged him the next morning. Shen Yu insisted on handling the paperwork, speaking with the doctor, arranging transportation, all while keeping Lin Qian within arm's reach. But for once, Lin Qian didn't argue. His body still felt weak, and his mind was foggy from the collapse. When Shen Yu stepped out to speak privately with the attending physician, Lin Qian stayed in the room, staring at the half-open door. He wasn't trying to listen, but the voices drifted in anyway. First, the doctor's voice, calm, professional. Mr. Shen, I'm concerned about the stress levels in your household. Mr. Lin needs a stable environment. He needs space to recover. Shen Yu's reply was quiet, strained. I know. You mentioned you're seeing a psychiatrist tomorrow. Yes, that's a good step, but Mr. Lin also needs... I can take care of him. The doctor paused. Mr. Shen, care doesn't mean control. Lin Qian's breath caught. Silence followed, heavy, tense. Then Shen Yue spoke again, voice low enough that Lin Qian had to strain to hear. You don't understand. If I give him space, he'll leave. That isn't something you can prevent. I have to. The doctor's tone sharpened. Why? Shen Yue exhaled shakily. Because the last time I let him go, he almost died. Lin Qian's heart twisted. Shen Yue continued, voice cracking. I can't lose him. I can't. I'm not built for that. The doctor's voice softened. Fear can make people act in ways they regret. I'm not afraid of regret, Shen Yu said. I'm afraid of waking up and finding him gone. Lin Qian pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the ache spread. He had known Shen Yu was afraid. He had seen it in the way he hovered, the way he locked the door, the way he watched him breathe. But hearing it spoken aloud, raw, unfiltered, made something inside him tremble. The doctor spoke again. Mr. Shen, if you want to help him, you need to let him choose to stay. Shen Yu didn't answer. The silence stretched long enough that Lin Qian wondered if Shen Yu had walked away. Then Shen Yu whispered, What if he doesn't choose me? Then you learn to let him go. Lin Qian's breath hitched. Shen Yue's answer came immediately. I can't. Not won't. Can't. Lin Qian felt the weight of that word settle over him like a shadow. He wasn't sure whether it frightened him or broke his heart. Footsteps approached. Lin Qian scrambled back into bed, pretending he hadn't moved. His pulse hammered in his ears as Shen Yue stepped inside. Shen Yue's expression softened instantly when he saw him awake. You should be resting. Lin Qian nodded, forcing his voice steady. I heard some of it. Shen Yue froze. Lin Qian met his gaze. You're afraid I'll leave? Shen Yue swallowed hard. Yes. Lin Qian hesitated, then spoke quietly. I'm not trying to disappear. Shen Yue stepped closer, sitting on the edge of the bed. I know, but fear doesn't listen to reason. Lin Qian looked at him, really looked at him. The tension in his shoulders, the exhaustion in his eyes, the desperation he tried so hard to hide. Shen Yue, Lin Qian whispered, you can't keep me by holding on so tightly. Shen Yue's voice trembled. I don't know how to hold you any other way. Lin Qian's chest tightened painfully, because for the first time, he realized something terrifying. Shen Yue wasn't just obsessed. He was drowning, and he was pulling Lin Qian down with him. The ride home from the hospital was quiet. Not the suffocating quiet of the apartment, not the brittle quiet of fear. A different kind of quiet. Heavy, uncertain, trembling at the edges. Shen Yue drove slowly, hands tight on the wheel, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds, as if checking that Lin Qian was still there. Lin Qian sat in the back seat, too drained to argue, too tired to pretend he didn't notice. When they reached the apartment, Shen Yue opened the door for him. Lin Qian hesitated on the threshold. The last time he crossed this doorway, he had felt trapped. Now, he wasn't sure what he felt. Shen Yue watched him carefully. "If you don't want to go in, we can stay outside for a while." Lin Qian blinked. It was the first time Shen Yue had offered him a choice. He stepped inside anyway. The apartment was the same, quiet, immaculate, cold, but something in the air had shifted. Shen Yue didn't hover. He didn't reach for him. He didn't lock the door. He just stood there, uncertain, as if afraid to move too close. Lin Qian sat on the couch, exhausted. Shen Yue lingered near the wall, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. "You should rest," Shen Yue said softly. Lin Qian nodded. "I will." But he didn't lie down. Shen Yue hesitated, then approached slowly, like someone approaching a wounded animal. "Can I sit?" he asked. Lin Qian looked up, startled. Shen Yue never asked. He nodded. Shen Yue sat beside him, not too close, not touching, but close enough that Lin Qian could feel the warmth radiating from him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Shen Yue exhaled shakily. "I didn't know you heard me. I didn't mean to." Shen Yue nodded. "I know." Silence again. Lin Qian finally whispered, "You're really going to see a psychiatrist?" "Yes." "Because of me?" "Because of us," Shen Yue corrected gently. Lin Qian's breath caught. Shen Yue turned slightly, his voice low and unsteady. "I don't want to be someone you're afraid of." Lin Qian looked at him, really looked at him. Shen Yue's eyes were tired, rimmed with sleeplessness. His posture was rigid, as if he were holding himself together by force. But beneath all of that was something fragile, something he had never shown before. Vulnerability. Lin Qian's chest tightened painfully. He reached out, slowly, hesitantly, and touched Shen Yue's sleeve. Lin Qian whispered, "I'm not afraid of you." Shen Yue swallowed hard. "You should be." "I'm not." Shen Yue turned to him fully then, eyes searching his face with a desperation he couldn't hide. "Why?" he asked, voice cracking. "After everything I've done, why aren't you?" Lin Qian didn't know how to answer. He didn't know why he wasn't afraid. He didn't know why he felt safer now than he had in days. He didn't know why Shen Yue's trembling voice made something warm bloom in his chest. He only knew one thing. "You're trying," Lin Qian said softly, "and that confuses me." Shen Yue let out a shaky breath, something like relief flickering across his face. Lin Qian's fingers slipped from his sleeve, but before he could pull away completely, Shen Yue caught his hand. Not possessively, just held it. Their fingers intertwined slowly, uncertainly, like two people learning how to touch each other for the first time. Lin Qian's heart thudded painfully. Shen Yue's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't know how to do this right." Lin Qian's voice trembled. "Then we'll learn." Shen Yue looked at him, eyes softening in a way Lin Qian had never seen. Not anger, not fear, not obsession. Something gentler, something fragile, something dangerous in a different way. "Stay," Shen Yue whispered. Lin Qian didn't answer. He didn't need to. He leaned his head against Shen Yue's shoulder, tentative, unsure, and Shen Yue went absolutely still, as if afraid the moment would shatter if he breathed too loudly. It was the closest they had ever been, without pain between them. And it terrified them both. Recovery came slowly. Not in dramatic leaps, but in small, almost invisible ways. He woke earlier. He ate more. He walked around the apartment without feeling dizzy. He breathed without feeling like the walls were pressing in. Shen Yu noticed every change. He didn't comment, but Lin Chen could feel his eyes following him. Not with suspicion this time, but with a strange mix of relief and apprehension, as if each step Lin Chen took was both a victory and a threat. On the third morning after returning home, Lin Chen stood by the window, sunlight warming his face. He hadn't realized how much he missed the feeling. Shen Yu approached quietly. "You're up early. I feel better today." Shen Yue's expression softened, but there was tension beneath it. "That's good." Lin Qian hesitated, then spoke carefully. "I want to try going downstairs, just for a few minutes." Shen Yue stiffened. Lin Qian continued before he could object. "I won't go far. I just want to feel the air." Shen Yue's jaw tightened, but he didn't say no. Instead, he stepped closer, searching Lin Qian's face. "Are you sure you're ready?" Lin Qian nodded. "I need to try." Shen Yue exhaled slowly, as if steadying himself. "Then I'll go with you." Lin Qian expected that. He didn't fight it. Shen Yue stood close, not touching, but close enough that Lin Qian could feel the warmth of him, the tension radiating from his body. When the doors opened, Lin Qian stepped out first. The lobby was quiet. The air smelled faintly of coffee and cleaning solution. It felt normal. He walked toward the entrance, each step steady, deliberate. Shen Yue followed silently. When Lin Qian pushed open the glass door and stepped outside, the cold air hit him like a shock. He inhaled deeply, closing his eyes. Freedom. Not complete, not perfect, but a taste of it. He stood there for a long moment, letting the breeze brush against his skin. When he opened his eyes, Shen Yue was watching him, with an expression Lin Qian couldn't decipher. Relief, fear, longing, all tangled together. "You're shaking," Shen Yue said softly. Lin Qian looked down. His hands were trembling slightly. "I'm fine," he said. "It's just been a while." Shen Yue stepped closer, but didn't touch him. "If it's too much, we can go back." Lin Qian shook his head. "No, I want to stay a little longer." Shen Yue's breath hitched, barely noticeable, but Lin Qian caught it. Because this wasn't just about fresh air. It was about independence, about taking a step away from the cage, even if the door was still half closed. They stood there together, the silence fragile. After a moment, Lin Qian spoke quietly. "I'm not trying to run." Shen Yue's eyes softened. "I know, but I need space to breathe." Shen Yu looked away, jaw tightening. "I'm trying. I can see that." Lin Qian hesitated, then added, "And I'm trying too." Shen Yu turned back to him, something vulnerable flickering in his gaze. "You're getting stronger," he said. "I'm glad." But Lin Qian heard the unspoken fear beneath the words. Stronger meant less dependent. Less dependent meant easier to lose. Lin Qian stepped closer, closing the distance between them by a fraction. "I'm not leaving," he said softly. "Not right now." Shen Yu's breath trembled. "Don't say right now," he whispered. Lin Qian looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, he saw how deeply the fear ran. How much it shaped every word, every action, every breath Shen Yu took. He reached out and touched Shen Yue's sleeve, just lightly. "I'm here," Lin Qian said. "Let that be enough for today." Shen Yue closed his eyes, exhaling shakily. For a moment, just a moment, the tension between them eased. Not gone, not healed, but softened into something fragile, and painfully human. They stood there together, in the cold morning air, neither moving away. And for the first time, Lin Qian felt like he was standing on his own feet again. Not because Shen Yue held him up, but because he was learning how to stand beside him. Lin Qian was changing. Not dramatically, not loudly, but in small, steady ways that made Shen Yue's chest tighten with a mix of pride and dread. He woke earlier. He moved with more confidence. He no longer hesitated before walking into another room. And worst of all, he no longer looked at Shen Yue like he was the only thing holding him together. That morning, Lin Qian stood by the kitchen counter, pouring himself a glass of water. His hands were steady, his posture relaxed. He didn't wait for Shen Yue to do it for him. Shen Yue watched from the doorway, heart twisting. "You're up early," he said. Lin Qian nodded. "I slept well." "That's good." Lin Qian hesitated, then spoke carefully. "I want to go outside again today." "Outside?" he repeated. "Just for a walk," Lin Qian said, "around the block." Shen Yue's fingers curled against the doorframe. "You went outside yesterday." "And it helped," Lin Qian said. "I want to try again." Shen Yue stepped closer. "You're still recovering." "I know." "You could get dizzy." "I'll be careful." "You could." "Shen Yue." Lin Qian's voice was gentle, but firm. "I need this." Shen Yue's heart pounded painfully. He knew Lin Qian wasn't trying to run. He knew this wasn't an escape attempt. But fear didn't care about logic. Fear whispered that every step Lin Qian took away from him was a step toward disappearing again. Shen Yue swallowed hard. "I'll go with you." Lin Qian shook his head. "I want to go alone." The words hit Shen Yue like a blow. Alone. Shen Yue stared at him, unable to speak. Lin Qian continued softly. "I'm not going far. I'll be back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes is enough for something to happen." Lin Qian stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. "Nothing will happen." "You don't know that." "I do." Shen Yue shook his head, panic rising. "You don't understand. When you collapsed—" "I know," Lin Qian whispered. "I know it scared you." "It didn't scare me," Shen Yue said. "It destroyed me." Lin Qian's breath caught. Shen Yue continued, voice trembling. "I thought I lost you. I thought—" He broke off, unable to finish. Lin Qian's expression softened, with something like sorrow. "Shen Yue," he said gently, "I'm not leaving you." Shen Yue closed his eyes. He wanted to believe that. He wanted to hold on to it. But the fear was louder. "Let me try. Just once. Just today." Shen Yue opened his eyes. Lin Qian's gaze was steady, calm, determined. He wasn't fragile anymore. He wasn't breaking. He wasn't clinging to Shen Yue for support. He was standing on his own. And that terrified Shen Yue more than anything. After a long moment, Shen Yue stepped back. "Fine," he said quietly. 10 minutes. Lin Qian smiled, small, grateful, warm. It hurt. "I'll be back soon," Lin Qian said. Shen Yue nodded, but his throat felt tight. Lin Qian put on his shoes, opened the door, and stepped into the hallway. Shen Yue watched him go. The door closed. Silence filled the apartment. Shen Yue stood there, staring at the door, every muscle in his body tense. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3. By the 4th minute, Shen Yue's hands were shaking. By the 5th, he was pacing. By the 6th, he was at the door, listening for footsteps. By the 7th, he was gripping the handle so tightly his knuckles turned white. By the 8th, the door opened. Lin Qian stepped inside, cheeks flushed from the cold, breathing lightly. "I'm back," he said. Shen Yue exhaled so sharply it was almost a gasp. Lin Chan smiled softly. See? I told you. Shen Yue didn't answer. He crossed the room in 2 steps and pulled Lin Chan into his arms. Not roughly, not possessively, but with a desperation he couldn't hide. Lin Chan froze and slowly relaxed against him. Shen Yue buried his face in Lin Chan's shoulder, voice shaking. I can't lose you, he whispered. I can't. Lin Chan's hand came up to rest on his back. You didn't, he said. I came back. Shen Yue held him tighter. He knew he couldn't stop Lin Chen from growing stronger. He knew he couldn't keep him small just to feel safe. But the fear didn't fade. It only learned to hide deeper. The psychiatrist's office was too bright, too clean, too quiet, too exposed. Shen Yue sat stiffly on the leather chair, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. He had never been in a room like this, a room where silence wasn't a weapon, but an invitation. Dr. Wen Jian sat across from him, calm and patient, a notebook resting on her lap. You came alone, she said gently. Shen Yue nodded. How is Lin Chen? Shen Yue's throat tightened. He's better. And how are you? Shen Yue didn't answer. Dr. Wen waited. She didn't push. She didn't pry. She simply let the silence stretch until it became unbearable. Finally, Shen Yue spoke. I'm afraid. Of what? Losing him. Dr. Wen nodded slowly. Tell me why. Shen Yue swallowed hard. Because the last time I let him go, he almost died. And you believe that was your fault? Shen Yue's jaw clenched. It was. Why? Because I wasn't there. Shen Yue. You can't control everything that happens to another person. I know that, he said sharply. But I can control whether he's alone. And you believe he shouldn't be. Shen Yue's voice dropped to a whisper. He can't be. Why not? Shen Yue stared at the floor. Because if Lin Qian was alone, he might disappear again. Because if Lin Qian walked away, he might never come back. Because if Lin Qian left, Shen Yue wasn't sure he would survive it. But he couldn't say that, not out loud. Dr. Wen watched him carefully. Shen Yue, what do you think will happen if Lin Qian gains more independence? He'll leave. Has he said he wants to? No. Then why do you believe he will? Shen Yue's voice cracked. Because I would. Dr. Wen blinked. You would leave someone who hurt you? Yes. And you think Lin Qian should leave you? Shen Yue's head snapped up. No, but you believe he has every reason to. Shen Yue didn't answer. Dr. Wen continued softly. You're afraid he'll make the choice you would make. Shen Yue's chest tightened painfully. You're projecting your own fear onto him, she said. Your fear of abandonment, your fear of being unworthy of staying. Shen Yue's breath trembled. I'm not afraid of being unworthy. Then what are you afraid of? I'm afraid, he whispered, that if he realizes he doesn't need me, he won't want me. The words hung in the air, raw and trembling. Dr. Wen didn't write anything down. She didn't speak immediately. She simply let the truth settle. Shen Yue, she said gently, love built on fear becomes control, and control becomes a cage. Shen Yue's hands shook. I don't want to cage him. But you are. Shen Yue's breath caught. Dr. Wen's voice softened even further. You're not a bad person. You're a frightened one, and frightened people hold too tightly. Shen Yue felt something inside him crack, a thin, fragile line he had been holding together for years. What if I let go, he whispered, and he doesn't come back? Then you learn to live with that pain. Shen Yue's heart twisted violently. I can't. You can, she said, but you don't want to. Shen Yue looked away, blinking hard. Dr. Wen continued, her tone calm but firm. If you want to keep him, you must give him space. If you want him to stay, you must let him choose. Shen Yue's voice was barely audible. And if he chooses to leave? Dr. Wen didn't soften the truth. Then you let him. Shen Yue's breath stilled. He felt the world tilt. Not violently, but slowly, like a structure finally giving way after years of strain. For the first time, he realized he wasn't afraid of losing Lin Qian. He was afraid of being left behind. And that fear was eating him alive. Giving space sounded simple in theory. In practice, it felt like peeling off his own skin. After the psychiatrist appointment, Shen Yue returned home with a quiet resolve. He replayed Dr. Wen's words over and over. If you want him to stay, you must let him choose. He understood the logic. He even agreed with it. But understanding something and living it were two different battles. When he stepped into the apartment, Lin Qian was sitting on the couch, reading. The sunlight caught the curve of his cheek, the soft fall of his hair. He looked peaceful. Shen Yue's chest tightened painfully. He wanted to go to him. He wanted to sit beside him. He wanted to touch him, to reassure himself that Lin Qian was still here. Instead, he forced himself to stay by the door. You're back. Shen Yu nodded. Yes. How was it? Shen Yu hesitated. It was difficult. Lin Qian closed his book gently. But you went. I did. Lin Qian smiled, small, warm, proud. It hurt more than anything. Shen Yu turned away before the emotion could show on his face. I'll be in the study, he said. Lin Qian blinked. Oh, okay. Shen Yu walked away. Every step felt wrong. The next few days were a quiet war inside him. Lin Qian cooked breakfast one morning. Shen Yu smelled the food and instinctively moved toward the kitchen, then stopped himself. Lin Qian glanced over his shoulder. You can come in, you know. Shen Yu shook his head. You're doing fine. He stayed in the doorway, hands clenched behind his back. Lin Qian frowned slightly, but didn't push. Later, Lin Qian went for another walk. Alone. Shen Yu watched him put on his shoes, watched him tie the laces with steady fingers, watched him open the door. He didn't say anything. He didn't follow. He stood perfectly still as the door closed. The silence that followed was unbearable. He paced. He sat. He stood again. He checked the clock every 30 seconds. When Lin Qian finally returned, 10 minutes, exactly 10, Shen Yu felt his knees weaken with relief. Lin Qian smiled softly. I'm back. Shen Yu nodded, forcing his voice steady. I know. But his hands were shaking. The hardest moment came that evening. Lin Qian was sitting on the couch again, legs curled beneath him, reading a novel. The lamp cast a warm glow over him, making him look softer, calmer, almost fragile. Shen Ye stood in the hallway, watching. He wanted to go to him. He wanted to sit beside him. He wanted to feel the warmth of his shoulder against his own. But he stayed where he was. Lin Qian looked up, sensing him. Shen Ye? Shen Ye swallowed. Yes. You've been distant. I'm giving you space. Lin Qian's expression softened with something like sadness. I didn't ask you to disappear. Shen Ye's breath caught. Lin Qian set his book aside and patted the couch beside him. Come sit. Shen Ye hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. Shen Ye crossed the room slowly, as if approaching something fragile. He sat down, carefully, leaving a small gap between them. Lin Qian watched him for a moment, then shifted closer, closing the gap himself. Shen Yue's heart stuttered. You don't have to stay away from me, Lin Qian said quietly. Space doesn't mean distance. Shen Yue exhaled shakily. I'm afraid of holding too tightly. Lin Chen leaned his shoulder against Shen Yue's. Then hold gently. Shen Yue closed his eyes. It was such a simple thing, Lin Chen's weight against him, warm and real, but it felt like the world had tilted back into place. He didn't touch him. He didn't pull him close. He just let himself breathe beside him. And for the first time, giving space didn't feel like losing him. It felt like learning how to keep him, without breaking him. Independence tasted good. Too good. Maybe that was why he pushed harder than he should have. It started small. Longer walks, staying out a little later, taking calls in the bedroom with the door closed. Shen Yu didn't say anything, but Lin Qian could feel the tension building under his skin like a storm waiting to break. Then came the night he didn't come home on time. He'd gone out with a few guys from his old workplace, people he barely knew, people who didn't matter. That was the point. He wanted noise. He wanted distraction. He wanted to feel like he wasn't living inside someone else's fear. He wanted to feel like he could still make choices that were his. The bar was loud, crowded, full of laughter and cheap music. Someone handed him a drink. Someone else offered him a cigarette. He didn't even like smoking, but he took it anyway. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew Shen Yu would hate it. He knew that was why he did it. When he finally returned home, past midnight, smelling faintly of smoke and alcohol, the apartment was dark, except for the light in the living room. Shen Yu sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly. He looked up when Lin Qian entered. His expression wasn't angry. It was worse. It was afraid. "You're late," Shen Yu said quietly. Lin Qian shrugged off his jacket. "I lost track of time." "With who?" "Just some guys." Shen Yu's jaw tightened. "Guys?" "Yes." "Do you even know them?" "Not really." Shen Yu stood slowly, the tension in his body coiled tight. "You smell like smoke." Lin Qian didn't answer. "And alcohol?" Still nothing. Shen Yu took a step closer. "Why?" Lin Qian looked away. "I wanted to." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have." Shen Yu exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "You're doing this on purpose." Lin Qian's voice was quiet. "Maybe." "Why?" Lin Qian finally met his eyes. "Because I need you to stop treating me like I'm going to break." Shen Yu froze. Lin Qian continued, voice trembling with frustration. "I'm not fragile. I'm not a child. I'm not something you can lock away." Shen Yu's voice cracked. "I'm trying to give you space. Then let me make mistakes." Shen Yui stared at him, stunned. Lin Qian stepped closer, anger and exhaustion mixing in his chest. "You want me to be independent? Then let me be independent, even if you don't like how I do it." Shen Yui swallowed hard. "You're hurting yourself." "I'm living. You're scaring me." Lin Qian's breath hitched. That wasn't the answer he expected. Shen Yui stepped closer, voice low and raw. "When you walked out that door tonight, I told myself I wouldn't follow you. I told myself I'd trust you. I told myself I'd give you space." Lin Qian's chest tightened. "But every minute you were gone," Shen Yui whispered, "felt like losing you all over again." Lin Qian looked away, guilt twisting in his stomach. "I didn't mean to." "Yes," Shen Yue said softly. "You did." Lin Qian flinched. Shen Yue didn't sound angry. He sounded hurt. "You wanted to see how far you could push me," Shen Yue said. "How much space I'd give you before I broke." Lin Qian's voice was barely audible. "I just wanted to feel like myself again." Shen Yue stepped closer, close enough that Lin Qian could feel his breath. "You are yourself," he said. "You always were. I'm the one who lost myself." Lin Qian's throat tightened. Shen Yue reached out, slowly, carefully, and brushed a thumb across Lin Chan's cheek. "You don't have to hurt yourself to prove you're free," he whispered. "You don't have to hurt me, either." Lin Chan closed his eyes. He hadn't expected the night to end like this. He hadn't expected the guilt. He hadn't expected the softness. He hadn't expected Shen Yue to look at him like that. Like he was something precious and painful all at once. "I'm sorry," Lin Qian whispered. Shen Yue exhaled shakily. "I know." And for the first time Lin Qian realized he wasn't the only one learning how to breathe again. The apartment was quiet the next morning. Too quiet. Lin Qian stood in the doorway of the kitchen, watching Shen Yue make tea with slow, deliberate movements. His shoulders were tense, his posture rigid, as if he were holding himself together by force. Lin Qian's chest tightened. He had done this. He hadn't meant to hurt Shen Yue, not like that. He'd wanted to feel free, to feel alive, to feel like he wasn't living inside someone else's fear. But he'd gone too far. He knew it the moment he saw Shen Yue's face last night. Not angry, not controlling, but wounded. Lin Qian stepped forward quietly. "Shen Yue." Shen Yue didn't turn around. "Yes. I'm sorry." The kettle clicked off. Shen Yue didn't move. Lin Qian swallowed. "I shouldn't have gone out like that. I shouldn't have come home smelling like smoke. I shouldn't have tried to provoke you." Shen Yue's hand tightened around the mug. "You wanted to see how far you could push me," he said softly. Lin Qian winced. "Yes. Why?" Lin Qian hesitated, then spoke honestly. "Because I was scared too. Scared of losing myself. Scared of becoming someone who only exists inside your shadow." Shen Yue finally turned. His eyes were tired. Not angry, not cold, just tired. "You're not in my shadow," he said quietly. "I felt like I was." Shen Yue exhaled slowly. "And last night was your way of proving you weren't." Lin Qian nodded. Shen Yue looked at him for a long moment, then set the mug down. "Come here." Lin Qian stepped closer. Shen Yue reached out and gently touched his cheek, brushing a thumb across the faint smell of smoke still lingering in his hair. "You scared me," he said. "More than you know." Lin Qian's voice trembled. "I know, and I'm sorry." Shen Yue's hand dropped to his side. "I don't want you to feel trapped. I don't want you to feel like you have to rebel just to breathe." "I don't," Lin Qian said quickly. "Not anymore." Shen Yue's eyes softened. "Then what do you want?" Lin Qian took a breath. "I want to be better," he said. "I want to communicate instead of running off. I want to make choices that don't hurt you. I want to try." Shen Yue blinked, surprised. Lin Qian stepped closer, voice steady. "And if I mess up again, if I do something reckless or stupid, I want you to tell me. Directly. Honestly. Not by locking me in or hovering over me. Just talk to me." Shen Yue stared at him, stunned. Lin Qian continued, softer now. "I'm not asking you to control me. I'm asking you to trust me, and I'll try to earn that trust." "You're serious?" "Yes." Shen Yue reached out again, this time taking Lin Qian's hand, not tightly, not possessively, but with a gentleness that made Lin Qian's chest ache. "You don't owe me anything," Shen Yue said quietly. "I know," Lin Qian replied. "That's why I want to give something." Shen Yue looked down at their joined hands. "What are you giving?" "A promise," Lin Qian said, "that I'll try not to hurt you again, and if I do, I'll face it. I won't run." Shen Yue closed his eyes, exhaling shakily. "That's all I ever wanted," he whispered. Lin Qian squeezed his hand. "I know." For a moment, they stood there in the soft morning light, not captor and captive, not obsession and escape, but two people trying, fumbling, learning how to meet in the middle. It wasn't healed, but it was a beginning. And for the first time, Lin Qian felt like they were walking towards something, instead of running from it. The smell hit him the moment he opened the door. Sharp, bitter, lingering in the air like a warning. Smoke. Shen Ye's heart dropped. He stepped into the living room and found Lin Qian leaning against the open window, a cigarette between his fingers, the faint glow of the ember lighting his face. Lin Qian looked up, startled. "Oh, you're home early." Shen Ye didn't answer. He walked forward slowly, each step heavy with disbelief and something darker. "Lin Qian," he said quietly, "what are you doing?" Lin Qian flicked ash out the window, trying for nonchalance. "It's just one. You promised you wouldn't do this again." Lin Qian's jaw tightened. "I know." "Then why?" Lin Qian looked away. "I was stressed." "Stressed," Shen Yue repeated, voice low. "So you decided to hurt yourself." "It's not. It is." Lin Qian flinched. Shen Yue reached out and gently took the cigarette from his hand. He didn't crush it. He didn't throw it. He simply held it between his fingers, staring at it like it was something dangerous. "Do you know what this does to you?" he asked softly. Lin Qian swallowed. "Yes. And you still did it." "I'm sorry." Shen Yu exhaled shakily, the fear rising again, the same fear that had haunted him since the collapse, since the hospital, since the moment he realized how fragile everything between them was. "You scared me," he said. Again. Lin Qian's eyes widened. "I didn't mean to." "I know," Shen Yu said. "But you did." He set the cigarette on the windowsill and turned back to Lin Qian, his expression tight with worry and frustration. "You can't keep doing this," he said. "Not to yourself, not to me." Lin Qian looked down, guilt twisting in his stomach. "I know," he whispered. "I went too far." Shen Yue stepped closer, lifting Lin Qian's chin gently so their eyes met. "You don't need to provoke me to feel alive," he said. "You don't need to test me to see if I'll stay." Lin Qian's breath trembled. "I'm trying to stop." "Then let me help you," Shen Yue said. "Not by controlling you, not by locking you in, but by being someone you can rely on." Lin Qian blinked, startled by the softness in his voice. Shen Yue continued, quieter now. "If you're stressed, tell me. If you're angry, tell me. If you feel like doing something reckless, tell me." Lin Qian nodded slowly. "I will." Shen Yue brushed a thumb across his cheek, gentle but firm. "And if you break your promise again," he said, "we talk about it. We fix it. Together." Lin Qian's eyes softened with relief. "No more hiding," Shen Yue said. "No more pushing me away." "No more," Lin Qian echoed. Shen Yue stepped closer, forehead resting lightly against Lin Qian's. "You matter too much to me," he whispered. "Don't make me watch you hurt yourself." Lin Qian closed his eyes, leaning into the touch. "I won't," he said. "I promise." And this time, Shen Yue believed him. The cigarette confrontation lingered in the air, long after the smoke had faded. Lin Qian had apologized. He had promised to communicate. He had promised not to hurt himself again. But the fear didn't leave Shen Yue's chest. It stayed there, tight, heavy, familiar. That night, Lin Qian sat beside him on the couch, legs tucked under him, a blanket draped over his lap. He looked calm, soft, almost peaceful. Shen Wei wasn't. Lin Qian noticed. "You're quiet," he said gently. Shen Wei stared at his hands. "I'm thinking." "About what?" Shen Wei hesitated. He had never told anyone, not his friends, not his family, not even himself, not really. but Lin Qian was looking at him with those steady, patient eyes, the kind that made hiding feel like a lie. Shen Wei exhaled slowly. "There's something you don't know about me." Lin Qian shifted closer. "I'm listening." Shen Wei's voice was low, almost too soft to hear. "When I was younger, someone I cared about disappeared." Lin Qian's breath caught. Shen Yue continued, staring at the floor. "He was my cousin. We grew up together. He was older than me, the kind of person who made everything feel safe. He was the one who walked me to school, who taught me how to ride a bike, who told me that people don't just vanish." Lin Qian's expression softened. "What happened to him?" Shen Yue swallowed hard. "He left home one night, said he needed air, said he'd be back in 10 minutes. Lin Qian froze. Shen Yue's voice cracked. "He never came back." Silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating, full of ghosts. "They found him 2 days later," Shen Yue said. "He'd been in an accident. No one knew until it was too late." Lin Qian's hand flew to his mouth. "Shen Yu." Shen Yu shook his head, eyes distant. "I was the last person he spoke to. I told him to go. I told him he'd be fine. I told him I'd see him in the morning." Lin Qian's heart twisted painfully. Shen Yu's voice dropped to a whisper. "I learned something that night. Something I never forgot." Lin Qian leaned closer, barely breathing. "What did you learn?" Shen Yu looked at him then, really looked, and Lin Qian saw the truth in his eyes. "That people don't always come back," Shen Yu said, "even when they promise they will." Lin Qian felt his chest tighten. "And ever since then," Shen Yu continued, "every time someone I care about walks out the door, a part of me waits for the call. The one that says they're gone. That I should have held on." Lin Qian reached out, taking Shen Yu's hand gently. "You think I'll disappear like he did?" Shen Yu didn't deny it. "I think," he said quietly, "that losing someone once teaches you how easily it can happen again." Lin Qian squeezed his hand. "I'm not him. I know. And I'm not going anywhere." Shen Yu's breath trembled. "You can't promise that." Lin Qian leaned his forehead against Shen Yu's, voice soft but steady. "I can promise I'll try. I can promise I'll be careful. I can promise I won't vanish without a word." Shen Yu closed his eyes. "And I can promise," Lin Qian whispered, "that when I walk out the door, I'll always come back." Shen Yu's fingers tightened around his. Not possessive, not desperate, just holding on. Quietly, carefully, as if learning how to trust again. Shen Yue's confession hung in the air long after the words faded. People don't always come back, even when they promise they will. Lin Qian felt the ache of it settle into his bones. He had known Shen Yue was afraid, anyone could see that. But he hadn't understood the shape of that fear until now. It wasn't possessiveness for its own sake. It wasn't control born from arrogance. It was grief. Old, unhealed, and still bleeding. Shen Yue sat beside him, shoulders tense, eyes fixed on the floor, as if waiting for judgment. Lin Qian reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away. He didn't. Their fingers brushed, then intertwined, tentative, careful, like they were both learning how to touch without hurting. "Shen Yu," Lin Qian said softly, "you were a child." Shen Yu's jaw tightened. "That doesn't matter." "It does," Lin Qian insisted. "You couldn't have known. You couldn't have stopped him." Shen Yu shook his head, voice low. "I told him to go. I told him he'd be fine." "You were trying to help," Lin Qian said, "not push him into danger." Shen Yu didn't answer. Lin Qian shifted closer, gently guiding Shen Yu's hand to rest against his own chest. "Feel that?" he whispered. "I'm here. I'm breathing. I'm alive." Shen Yu's breath trembled. "And I'm not going anywhere," Lin Qian added. Not because you hold on, not because you're afraid, but because I choose to stay. Shen Yu finally looked at him, really looked, and Lin Qian saw the rawness there, the vulnerability he hid from everyone else. You don't know how hard it is for me to believe that, Shen Yue said. I know, Lin Qian replied. That's why I'm saying it again. He squeezed Shen Yue's hand. I'm here. Shen Yue exhaled shakily, as if the words were both a relief and a wound. Lin Qian shifted even closer, until their knees touched. He rested his head lightly against Shen Yue's shoulder, a quiet gesture, but one that felt like a promise. Shen Yue froze for a moment, then slowly relaxed, leaning into him with a kind of hesitant surrender. You don't have to carry that memory alone anymore, Lin Qian murmured. You don't have to keep losing people in your mind. Shen Yue's voice was barely audible. I don't know how to stop. Then let me help you, Lin Qian said. Not by being locked away, not by being watched, but by being someone you can trust. Shen Yue's fingers curled around his, gentle but firm. I'm trying, he whispered. I know, Lin Qian said, and I see it, every day. For a long time, they stayed like that. No tension, no fear, just the quiet closeness of two people who had been hurting in different ways, and were finally learning how to meet in the middle. Shen Yue's breathing steadied. Lin Qian's heartbeat slowed, and for the first time, the space between them didn't feel dangerous. It felt safe.